So good evening, and thank you everyone for joining us for tonight's hybrid meeting and the presentation with the Los Alamos Mountaineers. Before we get started, I just want to make sure everyone's aware that the presentation is being recorded. I'm Beth Courtwright. I'm the Operations Manager at the Pajarito Environmental Education Center, or PEEC, in Los Alamos, New Mexico. And I'll be the moderator for tonight's talk. I first want to acknowledge our wonderful members and our donors for their generous support. Our partners like the Mountaineers, they make this all possible. And for more details about PEEC programs, you can visit us at our website at the bottom there. That's peaknature.org. Just a few logistics for tonight's presentation before we get started. Our presenter will be taking questions via Zoom chat and from the in-person audience. So for those of you watching from home, you can find that chat feature in the Zoom menu bar. You can type your questions to the person that says PEEC moderator, and it'll say my name, Beth, in parentheses. And it's in the chat window. You can do that anytime during the talk, and I'll read them during the Q&A at the end. Please remember that not everyone in the room here with us has a microphone, so there may be a delay when we're listening to those questions from the audience. Don't worry, we'll be back on in a second and we'll repeat the question for everyone at home to hear. After the talk, you'll receive a short evaluation in your email. Please do take a moment to fill that out. It helps us to improve our future programs. And without any further ado, I will pass it over to Sylvie to start the Mountaineers meeting.
Excellent. Thank you, Beth. I'm Sylvie Adam, still the president for this year of the Los Alamos Mountaineers. Couple business items before Rick takes over. Here we go. And here we go. It's fading away, Beth, but not moving forward. Zach, you broke it. What? Thank you. Oh. Right on. Thank you. Zach, you did not break it. Where are you? Thank you. All right. Here's the agenda. I'll go through each of these. Let's go to the first one. The 20th, it'll be December 11th at Fuller Lodge, the way we do. This is a members event only, so if you don't renew your membership beforehand, you can do it right there. We'll have a little table as you come in, renew your membership. Otherwise, you'll have to look at the food, but turn around. So good. It's potluck. The Los Alamos Mountaineers provide the main dish and dessert, and members provide something to share. But importantly, bring your utensil plate, any table covering you want to bring to celebrate the holidays. It also helps us with cleanup if we protect the tables, and then any decoration. You guys are very creative. It's fun every year to look at the table decorations. And so we'll open the door at 6. Come and mingle and eat and socialize. Tell your story, your favorite trip of the year, and then we'll start the 6 10-minute presentation around 7. Okay, and we'll be managing that timing. So that's the potpourri. Do you want me to pitch the gear, Jean? Mary Thompson and Jean Dewart will also be collecting used winter gear for Santa Fe Homeless Shelter. So if you have any question, Jean is sitting right here in the white shirt if you have questions about what to bring, what not to bring. She sent an email to the membership on details. So things like, for this particular drive, we're not taking, what did you say? Like hygiene, that's right. No shampoo, toothbrush, toothpaste, that's not part of. So this is used winter gear. Anything else? Okay. All right, and the big business item. So the Board of Governance of the Los Alamos Mountaineers is composed of 8 members: President, Vice President, Secretary, Treasurer, Equipment Manager, Program Chair, Trip Coordinator, and Membership Chair. And we have the slate for the 2025 board ready for you guys to vote on. So I will display it here. So proposed for 2025, Evan Rose for president, Jan Velichowski for vice president, Claire Shepard from treasurer, Tim Rennick for secretary. I would take over trip coordinator, Gwendolyn Gallagher for membership chair, and Satsangi for program chair, and Rick Rubio for equipment manager. So of course, with an amazing thank you for the outgoing members. It's time to vote for the incoming members. So we have 2 ways to vote.
I say we railroad them.
Wow. On cue. I forgot about that, Zach. We're going to vote 2 ways. Beth is going to manage a poll for our Zoom members, and then we'll do a show of hands here for the in-person. You going with the online vote, Beth? And while she does that, while she runs that, here in the room, if you are current in good standing Los Alamos Mountaineers member, please raise your hand if you vote for the slate I just displayed. See the slate before you vote. Hold it up, Jean is counting. Excellent showing here in the room. Oh, thanks, Patty. Count me, Jean. Thank you. Thank you, Jean. We got a wonderful participation in the room. And that's usually about enough time for the online people to, okay. Oh my gosh. Jean, stand up again. So we got all the yays. Any nays on the slate for 2025? Not in the room and not online. You can just X out of that. So there were 6. 6 out of 6. 6 yays. 6 yays online. Thank you, everybody. I think it's a go. Yay! Congratulations. We are set for 2025. All right. In January, the board will elect additional position besides those 8, which is typically publicity and our webmaster. And I think we'll do well with that as well. Zach, did I miss anything? Perfect, says Zach. All right. My work is done for today. Here's Jean with a trip report. Yep. Oh, I can do that.
All right. We had a couple of trips that had to be postponed at the end of October because of a big rainstorm and runny and muddy roads. So this covers the November trips. Ann Setsangi, our program coordinator, is also an active leader in the Southwest Nordic cross-country ski club here in Los Alamos. And she organized some of the mountaineers, along with the Southwest Nordic group, to put up shade fencing at the cross-country ski trails at Pajarito Mountain. This is a super important activity to try to keep some of the sun off of the trails to preserve the snow. And so we got a big thank you from the Southwest Nordic for the mountaineer volunteers. It's a bunch of work, but it's fun too. And the mountaineers would also encourage you, if you're a cross-country skier or snowshoer that use the trails up at Pajarito, go ahead and join Southwest Nordic also. Those membership dues help support the grooming, the equipment, and the shade fencing, and the clinics that they sponsor too. So it's a real good thing. The big Los Alamos Mountaineers trip was to Moab for the first full week in November this year. Bill Podorski rented a really nice house in Moab where 16 mountaineers stayed and did 18 trips over the course of the week. The trips were in the Bureau of Land Management lands around Moab, at Arches and Canyonlands National Park, and the BLM Canyon Rims Recreation Area. Bill Podorski led 7 hiking trips, 1 with Jeep support. Evan Rose led 5 canyoneering trips. Charlie Strauss led 3 mountain biking trips and 1 hiking trip. Kathleen Gritzmacher led 1 biking trip, and Patty Walls led 1 hiking trip. And we're very appreciative for all the Mountaineers leaders. That's what makes the club go. And they've given me some photos of their trips. This is really above Cottonwood Canyon Wash. I mistyped that. And they had rain the first day, but still hiked in some beautiful canyon country. Willow Spring Canyon, when the sun cleared, many of the gullies still had water. And then this beautiful photo, there's a mountaineer down there in the lower part of the photo through Tower Arch. Fabulous country. And this is, I think this is Tony Taylor about to begin a rappel, so some real high adventure on this trip as well. And then the Jeep support on one of the hikes they took. So really wonderful trip, and I think there's a plan to go again next year for more adventures. Upcoming trips. Claire Shepard had announced a lower water canyon, Ancho Canyon loop hike, but in scouting the canyons this last week after the snowstorm, there's too much ice in the canyon to do it safely. So she switched for this coming weekend to do a blue dot, red dot hike down in White Rock Canyon. Bill Podorski is going to do a Black Friday hike in the Ghost Ranch Abiquiu area, and
so I'd just like to encourage people for these 2 trips. The day after Thanksgiving, of course we'll watch the weather. You watch the weather for all outings in the winter. But if there's a hiatus from snow, the Abiquiu area is our own piece of canyon country, red rock, canyons, plateaus, and worth an explore. So get out there, join me to shake off the turkey. And then even in early December, again, if the snow doesn't get major before then, the Bluff area is at much rather lower altitude than we are here. It's under 4,000 feet. It can be lovely, 50-degree weather or so hiking off on Comb Ridge, on Cedar Mesa, exploring along White Canyon. So there's 1 room left in the house. So yeah, that's your chance here to join that trip.
Thanks. Ann Setsangi and Michael Altair are having a backcountry skier meetup.
No. Any riders,
Oh.
boarders, anyone. Doesn't have to be a skier.
I'm corrected. Snowshoer, snowboarder, skier, bicycler maybe, fat tire biker. Noon on Sunday, December 8th, up at Camp May, and the club's providing brats, so it's a good opportunity. And then Michael's offering his 2024 Avalanche refresher. It's in 2 parts. Thursday, December 12th is a classroom session in the evening at the Los Alamos Library. And then on Sunday, December 15th, there'll be a field day to practice some avalanche skills, avalanche response skills. Tanya Pietras is leading a 3-day Big Bend backpack just before the Christmas holidays. That trip is full. And Bill has a luxury llama trip scheduled for the spring of 2025 in April. This will be a fully catered trip, so you'll have lots of time to explore the canyons above Escalante, Utah, and then have your meals prepared at night. And then one of the trips that was had to be postponed because of weather in October. Clarissa Yablinski and Ann Setsangi are going to have a Bisti Badlands car camping and hiking trip some weekend in the spring. So if you're not yet a Mountaineers member, if you join the club, it costs $15 a person and $20 for a family. If you become a member, you'll get emails sent out to you inviting you to the trips and the meetings. So it's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Jean. All right, it's all you now. Here comes Anne. You want this?
I don't think so. Okay, as the program chair, we've had a really good year of programs. I want to thank Juliana, who did a lot of that setting up as I came into the position. I'll be doing it for the next year. So I just want to put out there that we've started to put together a good slate for next year. But if you have an exciting mountaineering, canyoneering adventure that you want to share, we're always looking for great talks and sharing your experience, your know-how, and passing that on to people. And then we have a great slate for the potpourri. So just to advertise, we have backpacking on the Continental Divide Trail, exploring Badlands in northwest New Mexico, birding the Boot Hill, Los Alamos backyard winter trails and the maintenance of Cañada Bonita trails, the 4 days and 3 nights and lunch with an orangutan, and then canyon explorations and new discoveries. So come on out for food, fun, and all these talks. And then with that, I want to introduce today's speaker, Rick Rubio. And Rick is a longtime mountaineer, has hiked and climbed and skied the world over, internationally renowned climber, and is well trained in several avalanche training levels, and is going to talk to us today about how we can stay alive when we go out in avalanche country. Oh, you got.
Is my mic on? Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Rick Rubio. I've taken the AIARE1 course back in 2017 and the AIARE2 course in 2019, and that's where I get most of my avalanche education from, and also doing backcountry skiing in California and a little bit in New Mexico and some in Europe and Japan. Okay. Oh, just higher. Okay. All right. Okay. How's this? Hello, hello. All right, here we go. Okay. So, I don't have to look up so much. So, I want to talk about avalanche awareness, of course, and to do that, I'd like to introduce the avalanche risk management framework that I learned about in the AIARE classes, and I'll talk more about AIARE as we go on. And we'll talk about snowpack instability and what causes it. And also, I'd like to discuss the human factors that can go in decision making. A lot of accidents are caused by bad decisions out there. So it's good to know about human factors that can affect your decision making. And of course, I'd like to encourage everyone who venture out in the winter and snow avalanche territory to take avalanche courses and practice avalanche rescue training. And also remember that avalanche education is a continuing process. So a few statistics. Yeah, if you've ever gone to a ski resort that has access to the backcountry, you'll see signs like this. And despite of all these signs, people still go out unprepared, and sometimes there are some bad consequences. So avalanche-prone slopes are stable 95% of the time. That's usually a good thing, but the bad thing is we don't really learn by doing, because we don't know if we're getting lucky or just, we don't know if we're doing the right thing or just getting lucky. And 93% of avalanche accidents are triggered by the victim. So there's no such thing as the avalanche came out of nowhere. Usually it's triggered by somebody. For whatever reason, people who have avalanche education are more likely to get involved in an avalanche accident. And that's probably because, yeah, if we know something about how avalanches happen, we gain more confidence and we go out there and take more risks. So something to keep in mind. And yeah, avalanche rescue is important to know, but half of fully buried victims will die because there's a lot of other factors besides suffocation that can kill you. You can run into trees, rocks. It's not playing. Okay, so AIARE is the American Institute for Avalanche Research and Education, and it's a nonprofit. They put this curriculum out. You can take classes in a lot of different places, and they've come up with this risk management framework. I know that there's a lot of stuff here in the framework, so I like to think of it as a simpler method, which is basically you want to know enough about avalanche mechanics to make a prediction of what the conditions will be, and also it makes you prepare for what you should see out there by using what you know and checking the weather forecast, checking the avalanche report, and then when you go out, you're always making observations. You know, how does the snow feel? How deep are your skis penetrating the snow? What direction the wind is blowing, and et cetera, and we'll dive into this some more. And then at the end of your tour, you do a debrief. So you're comparing what you think should be out there as far as snow instability to what you observed, and that way you're learning what's going on out there. So again, this is the thing on the left is my simplified way of putting this risk management framework, so that it's easier to grasp. Okay, so the first thing is prepare, and this is where you learn about avalanche mechanisms, and you can take courses like AIARE1, and then there's AIARE2, which is a similar course, but you go more in depth. I remember when I took it, it was a 4-day course. On the first day, we did some classroom work, and then we practiced avalanche rescue, and so forth. We really got into the snow science part of it, and we also did a lot of field work. We went out to the snow and did a little tour and dug some pits and looked at the layers of the snowpack. And okay, that's it for AIARE1 and 2. And also we have lots of resources here in the Los Alamos Mountaineering Club. the backcountry meetup was mentioned, and also the Avalanche Rescue Refresher. It's actually December 12th and 15th. And Michael Altair, where are you, Mike? He is the avalanche expert here. He's also doing a class called Know Before You Go, and it hasn't been scheduled yet. And also we have some mentors here. Gene Dewart is a weather expert, and weather is a big part of avalanche forecasting. There are books. One example is by Bruce Tremper, Staying Alive in Avalanche Terrain. The Mountaineers has the Avalanche Handbook, and also there's a bunch of websites out there. So, okay, avalanche rescue. I'm really not going to go through this because it's one thing to learn about avalanche rescue from listening to somebody or reading a book, and it's a totally different thing to actually practice it. And then it's another totally different thing to actually do it in real life. So one of the things I want to mention is that usually when we do avalanche rescue training, we're digging in snow that's easy to dig. In a real avalanche, the snow is rock hard. And I think Michael is going to do an exercise where you actually dig hard snow just to get a feel for it. Okay, another part of preparation is tracking the season's conditions. And up on the upper right, I just put up a sample of some weather history that I grabbed from weather.com. There's a feature in there where you can look for weather history, and it will give you the weather. This is an example for, I think, Los Alamos, where I don't have my glasses. We had that early snowstorm in the first week of November, and we got quite a bit of snow. And what I circled there on the left is the low temperatures. Oh, thank you. and you'll notice that the low temperatures got down to 7 degrees one night and up in the teens. And that's important because that early snow will turn into facets. And we'll talk about that some more. But facets they're fun to ski on when they're on the surface, but when they're underneath other layers of snow, it forms a weak layer that can cause a slab avalanche. And the picture on the lower right is a pit, a snow pit that was dug for to check out the layers, and you can see where there are holes in that snow, and that's where the snow observer is checking the hardness of the layers. There's a scale that goes from fist, meaning a fist can easily go into a layer. That means it's very soft, and up to a hardness of what's called a knife hardness, where you can penetrate a knife into the layer, but you can't push it with your finger. And that is a hard layer that's called a slab, which can break. So slab on top of a weak layer is a bad recipe or a good recipe for an avalanche. Okay. Another part of preparation is investigating trip options. And the goal here is to have a list or catalog of trips of differing complexities, so that you can tailor the trip to the group that you have. If you have a group of very experienced skiers, for example, you can pick a gnarlier tour, and if you have some weaker, less experienced skiers, you'll want simpler terrain, meaning fewer avalanche problems, no terrain traps, etc. We'll talk about those things later on. And also, the triangle there represents snowpack, terrain, weather, and human factors. So in general, terrain is going to be related to the avalanche danger. So if avalanche danger is high or moderate, let's say, you'll want to pick simpler terrain to keep things safe. And also, there are human factors that we'll talk about later. So another step of the preparation is to assemble your group. You want to have a cohesive group, a group where everyone has a common goal, and expectations are discussed. So you don't end up with a group where you get up to the top of a peak, and one group wants to ski this gnarly chute, another group wants to take this easy route down. You want to stick together for safety, and so ideally you'll want the group to agree on how much risk you're willing to take, and the difficulty of the terrain that you want to ski, and so that if you have a prepared plan ahead of time, it's less likely that human factors are going to come into play. For example, you have a plan to go up a certain ridge, come down a certain run, but then you get there and it's a beautiful bluebird day, and the steep runs look beautiful, and then you end up not having a cohesive group, and that can cause accidents when people decide to do different things instead of staying together as a group. So again, you want to avoid human factors, and also an optimal group size is 3 to 5. It's what research has shown. Smaller than 3, where you have 2 people, it's harder to have a discussion about how safe the slope is, and if the group is bigger than 5, there are too many opinions, and it's just hard to get everyone to agree on where to go and how to go about it. So ideally, you'll want the group to agree ahead of time, to ride together, decide together, and listen to every voice, and challenge assumptions, and respect any veto. If anyone has a bad feeling about the route, about the descent, that person needs to be heard. And again, discuss goals, risk tolerance, and if anyone has a health issue, like a hurt knee or whatever, then you need to do that up front so that you can adjust the terrain to the group. And of course, have a record of group names and cell phone numbers in case there's an emergency. Okay, potential human factors, human factor traps. Peer pressure, we know what that is. Herd mentality, everyone's going down this run, it must be okay. Well, there are cases where several skiers have gone down the same run, and let's say the 4th or the 5th skier triggers an avalanche. And scarcity, that's when you get to the top of a slope, and it's the conditions only happen once every 5 years. Let's go do it. So you want to avoid that. Familiarity, somebody in the group has done this run 100 times, it's never avalanched. The forecast must be wrong. And I mentioned Bluebird Day. Yeah, it's beautiful out there. It's got to be safe. So, and the last one is called Expert Halo. I put this picture up. I showed this in another talk I did a couple years ago, where a group of skiers had hired a guide. This is a hut-to-hut trip in the Alps, and all the skiers in that group were experienced enough that they could have put this trip together themselves without the guide. But they hired a guide who was a renowned mountaineer. He had done several 8,000 meter peaks, and so everybody had their guard down. They trusted this guide blindly. And the spot where Howie, this is the skier I skied with in the Alps, where he's standing is approximately where they were when the storm hit. And the rest of us were in this hut. I don't know if you can see it. There's a stone hut to the right of his helmet. And they could see the lights, but they couldn't get there. So anyway, the lesson learned is that they had their guard down and they trusted this expert blindly, and no one asked questions, and a bunch of people died. Okay, so now we want to anticipate the hazard, and we do this by education, avalanche education, and doing the trip planning that we talked about, assembling the group, etc. And we also want to check the weather forecast. There's all kinds of weather websites out there. And also check the avalanche report. There's CAIC, Taos Avalanche Center, are probably the two closest ones to us. And also we talked about weather tracking. And so you use that weather tracking information to figure out for yourself what to expect as far as avalanche danger and snowpack stability when you go out in the field. And talk to local experts and check recent observations. These websites, avalanche forecast websites, usually have a spot where skiers just like us can submit observations. And those observations can be a little bit technical, so it helps to know the lingo, and we'll talk about that a little bit here in a later slide. And we're lucky to have Gene Dewart here, who's the weather expert, and we have a lot of backcountry skiers in this group as well that we can talk to. Okay, weather conditions can affect your travel plans, of course, and also it can modify the avalanche forecast if the weather happens to be not what was predicted. And for example, if there's a heavy snowfall, there are possible storm avalanches that can happen, and if it's snowing and it's windy, it can cause whiteout conditions, and that can affect your travel. And also, wind is very important because it can transport snow. It will transport snow, which can cause wind slabs, and we'll talk more in detail about that. And if there's rapid warming in the forecast, the rapid warming can create unstable snow. And of course, low clouds and low visibility can slow you down. So as you go, you may have to modify your plan. Okay, when you go to read the avalanche advisory, you're going to see a chart similar to this, where the forecaster has rated the avalanche danger from low to extreme. And an important thing to note is that this is not a linear scale. And one analogy is that when you go from, let's say, moderate danger to considerable, moderate is like crossing 2 lanes of freeway traffic, and considerable is like crossing 4 lanes of freeway traffic. So it's exponential. Here's an example of an advisory, an avalanche advisory. So the map shows you where the forecast is valid, and then on the right is a depiction of the avalanche danger depends on elevation. So in this example, the avalanche danger is low, below tree level, and it goes up to moderate at near tree line and above tree line. And on the bottom left is a diagram showing the major avalanche problem. And okay, let me back up. In every forecast, there's going to be a major avalanche problem, which is circled here. So this is showing that the major avalanche problem is a persistent slab, and the diagram below shows the symbol for that. It depicts a mountain with a layer of snow on top of it, and the shaded layer, the thinner layer there, is a weak layer, and the one on top is a hard slab, and it shows it breaking. And the next picture to the right is let me put my glasses on. Is showing the aspect and the elevation of where the avalanche problem can occur. And it's showing northwest to east aspects where it's shaded in gray. And that's where the forecasted avalanche problem is expected. So you might want to stay on the other aspects from west to southeast, where that persistent slab problem is not in the forecast. And then going over to the right is the probability of the slide of a persistent slab, and it's shown as probable. And then over to the right again is the potential size of the avalanche, and it can go from low, which might knock out a person or maybe the entire group, up to historic, which can take out an entire village. So here's some statistics on accidents versus forecasted danger level. So you can see here that when the forecast is considerable, this is from 96 to 2006, 37% of the accidents happened. And when it was high, 34%. When it was extreme, I guess people were smart enough to stay away. Okay, one of the things that cause an avalanche is the slope angle. That's pretty intuitive. And the sweet spot for an avalanche here is somewhere between 30 to 45 degrees. So you want to avoid those slopes when the avalanche danger is high. And then above about 45 degrees, 55 degrees, the danger is actually less because the snow just doesn't stick to the mountains when it's that steep. So and also you can use your smartphone to use as an inclinometer, and actually works really well. If you have an iPhone, that feature's already there. It's under measurement. For checking the angle, yeah, like a level. The question was what was the feature for the iPhone? It's under measurement and level. Okay, there are 9 avalanche types that avalanche forecasters use, and I'll talk about the less dangerous ones first. So let's see, dry loose is exactly what it sounds like when the snow is dry and there's a lot of it coming from the sky. It can avalanche, what's known as a point release. It starts at a point and it fans out, and it can knock you down. So it's not totally safe, and it can also trigger a more dangerous kind of avalanche called a slab avalanche. So watch out for those. And so instability from dry loose avalanches will usually last from hours to maybe days, and then it's safe after the snow consolidates, or safer. Another one is called wet loose, and this happens usually in the springtime when there's a lot of sunshine, and rain can also help it, and it's again a point release kind of avalanche, and it can also, it doesn't cause as much damage as a slab avalanche, but it can also be dangerous enough that it can bury people. And let's see, let's skip over to Cornice Fall. And so the picture here depicts a wind blowing over a crest, and it picks up snow on the on the upwind side and deposits it on the lee side, and it forms a cornice. And the cornice can break and fall on people. And one thing to note here is that you don't want to walk right up to the edge of the cornice, because it can break farther back than you think. So stay far away from them and far away from underneath them. Okay, and let's see. Let's talk about a slab avalanche and what happens. So the picture on the upper left shows the layers of the snowpack, where you have the ground and then a layer of harder snow, or fairly hard snow, and then a weak layer, and then on top of that is a slab, which is a hard layer of snow. And the picture below that shows a slab avalanche crown, where the slab is broken off. And the diagram here shows some terminology where it shows the crown of the avalanche, and then flanks on either side, and the stouch wall is where the snow gets piled up on top of the snow that didn't slide. And it's good to know these terms, because if you're in an avalanche rescue situation, the leader of the rescue might say, you go to the right flank, you go to the left flank, and ski down to the stouch wall. Okay, weak layers. How do they form? There are three major ways. One way is called surface hoar. This is much like the frost that forms on your car after a clear night, or if you take a beer mug out of the freezer and you see frost on top of it. Yeah, and so if we have a snowfall and then followed by a clear night, surface hoar can form on top of that snow. And the bad thing about that is, as you can see in these pictures, it's a very delicate form of snow or ice. And if snow falls on top of that and makes a hard layer, then you have the recipe for a slab avalanche. And surface hoar is also hard to predict where it's going to end up, because in sheltered areas like in trees where it's protected from wind, the surface hoar can persist. And as the picture here shows, that there's actually a pretty bad slide that happened in the trees. So usually we think of treed areas as being safe, but not all the time. Another form of weak layer is called depth hoar, and that happens on the ground or close to the ground. And again, it's a layer of weak snow that kind of acts like ball bearings when a hard slab forms on top of it, and you've got the slope angle that can cause an avalanche. And it happens more commonly where you've got you've got a large temperature gradient, and because of water vapor moving, this depth hoar will form, and then it gets buried by more layers of snow, and that's why it's called a persistent weak layer, because it can stay there for weeks, months, or the entire ski season. Okay. How are we doing on time, Beth? Okay. All right. I guess I need to speed up a little bit, right? I've got 40 slides. If not, I've got a little story here. Okay, so I witnessed a slide. It was actually inside of a ski resort in Mammoth, California, and I found out later when I was taking the AIARE2 class what happened there. It was caused intentionally by the avalanche mitigation people, by throwing bombs on the snow surface. They had the area closed off, not the entire ski area, but part of it was closed off, and it was a big oops. They caused this huge slide that went all the way down to one of the chairlift where people were hanging out, and so it turns out what happened there was there had been a persistent weak layer. And they knew about it. It had been there all season long, and they were testing the slope to make sure it was safe, or actually to cause a smaller avalanche so that it wouldn't get worse. And the avalanche mitigation expert who was teaching the AIARE2 class that I was taking said that they would normally drop explosives from the gondola to the snow surface, and usually the weak layer was down deep enough. So in general, if the weak layer is down by, let's say, a meter or so, it's safe because a skier can't trigger it. That's a general rule. And this layer was down maybe 2 meters. And the explosive was just a bit too much, and the whole thing came crashing down. So when I finally opened the slope, I could see the crown. It was over my head. That's how thick that slab was, and the damage it did was just unbelievable. So now, new procedure: instead of dropping the bomb from the gondola, they lower it. They lower it with a rope, so they know they can set it exactly however far above the snow. So. Okay. Another form of a weak layer is called faceting. That's when snow, again, because of water vapor transfer from the warmer ground to the cold air, the snow will form crystals, and the crystals look like little squares or hexagons, and when snow takes on that form, it doesn't consolidate. It stays in a crystalline form, and the crystals don't bond to each other, and it can form a persistent weak layer. And the thing about faceting is it can happen anywhere in the snowpack. It could happen close to the ground or close to the surface, and on the surface. And I actually went out this afternoon in the front yard where there was still snow on the north side of the house, and dug down. It was about, I don't know, 8 inches thick. And sure enough, I could scoop up the snow, and it was like exactly what's shown in the picture here. So when new snow falls on top of that snow and forms a slab, then again, we have the recipe for a slab avalanche. Okay, so we talked about the weak layer. Now we're going to talk about slab formation. And slabs are generally formed by the wind. And the wind when wind picks up new snow and takes it up to the air and it gets jumbled around, the crystals break, and then the snowflakes get rounded, and so when it goes back down on the ground, it tends to bond together more than it did before it got picked up. So now you have a harder layer when the snow lands back on the ground, and the picture on the upper right shows what's called cross-loading. That's when the snow transports, when the wind transports from one gully to the next, and then it can form a hard slab. And the picture below shows the wind transporting snow over a ridge or over a peak, and then landing on the lee side, and again forming a slab. So when you're out there skiing, pay attention to the wind. Which way is it blowing? How hard is it blowing? Look up at the peaks, and if you see plumes of clouds, that's really snow that's getting blown around, and it gives you a better idea of how much wind transport is going on. Okay, so we're still in the planning stage. Plan your route, preview the terrain by using maps, photos. There's a lot out there on the internet now where you can see photos of backcountry ski areas, and you can use Google Maps, and plan to limit your avalanche exposure by picking your route uphill wisely. Try to stay on the ridges, in the trees, and stay out of terrain traps, gullies, or where there are cliffs where an avalanche could take you over a cliff, etc. And plan on teamwork, travel together. Listen to every voice, challenge assumptions, respect any veto. Okay. And again, simpler terrain is the answer for elevated avalanche danger, where stability is the question, terrain is the answer. So if the avalanche forecast is on the high side, plan on staying on slope angles less than 30 degrees, and pick terrain that's simple, meaning there are no terrain traps, there are no cliffs where an avalanche could take you over and kill you. I'll show some examples of that. Yeah, okay, so think about the uncertainty. If you have new partners, people you've never skied with, keep it simple. Now, a lot of skiers tend to exaggerate their abilities, so if you don't know them, keep it simple. Okay, so I mentioned terrain traps, gullies, trees, rocks, and cliffs, and also identify and avoid avalanche paths. Now, there are clues out there as to what an avalanche path is, and this applies to anybody who ventures out: snowshoers, cross-country skiers, snowmobilers, etc. Look around you. If you see a path that's clear and you can't figure out why there are no trees there, and the slope angle is 30 degrees or higher, it's probably an avalanche path. So, and also, even if you're down in the flats, let's say around here, look above you. The avalanche run out can go a lot farther than you think. Where you think it's flat, there's no way an avalanche can get you. It still might. One way to check is with your inclinometer. Okay, let's say right around this point, you think an avalanche could be triggered. Pick that point, check the angle, anywhere from, let's say 19 to 25 degrees is not safe. So less than that, you're okay. And when you're doing your planning, note observation points and check-in spots. So agree with your group that first of all, you're going to check in with each other. Let's say you can do it by time or you can do it by location, and you plan on staying close together close enough together that you can communicate, so that when you see something iffy out there, hey, let's bunch up and talk about it. And pick a turnaround time and stick to it, and discuss your emergency plan, first aid, group gear with first aid and repair kits, etc. Okay, so we're done with the preparation and the planning part. And now it's time to go out and ski. And this is when we want to observe what's going on out there. This is going up and going down. So this is saying what I said before. We've made a prediction as to what should be out there. Now we're going to observe. And as we go along, we're looking for clues of instability. If we see any sloughing, then we know there's some instability out there. If we see an actual avalanche, then we know it's unstable out there. And we might want to turn around and go do something else, go bowling or something. Okay, so we do a departure check, and to confirm that everybody who said they're going to bring group gear actually has the gear, and everyone has a transceiver, shovel and probe, and other equipment, skins. One trip I went on, when it was time to skin up, because we started at the top of a ski resort, and then we left the ski resort, and then we had to ski up. And one of the guys tries to put skins on. It's like, oops, grabbed the wrong ones. So he made do, but he went pretty slow. And then we also do a beacon check. And another friend on that same trip turns on his beacon. Oops, no batteries. And I always carry a headlamp with spare batteries, and luckily he needed the same batteries that I had, so we fixed that problem. Okay, transceiver check. This is important, and I don't want to really go through this in detail, but we're making sure that everyone's beacon works properly. It goes through the self-check, and we get that cheery okay tone, and we also check the battery level. 90%, at least 90% battery level is good. Anything below, it's like, it may not be enough, because if you get buried, and anyway, we don't want to talk about getting buried. and we want to make sure that everybody. Okay, so first we check search mode to make sure the search mode works on everyone. So one person stays in transmit, and then everybody else checks to make sure that they can pick up the transmit beacon. And then we all switch to search, and then we switch to search and make sure the leader can be picked up, and then before we head out, everybody switches to transmit mode, and everybody double checks each other. Okay, now we're finally skiing. We're skiing uphill, and we're checking the weather, we're observing the weather, and if there's a heavy snowfall, for example, we want to make sure, or we know that there could be dry loose avalanches, and we're monitoring the wind, we're checking as we go, we're looking for signs of wind transport, and we're just keeping our eyes and ears open. And if there are pinwheels going off the slopes on a warm day, we want to note that. And also, is the weather what the forecast said it's going to be? Because if it's not, then it can affect also the avalanche advisory. And we're also looking at the snow, and are there any signs of recent avalanche activity? And what slope angle are those avalanches happening at? What solar aspect? Is it what the forecast called for? And as we're skinning along, we're watching out for any whumping sounds. If you hear a whump, or you might even sink a couple inches, that means the snow's collapsing under you, and it's not a good sign. And also, we're looking around for any cracking in the snow, because we know that cracking can mean possible slab avalanches, and watching out for overhanging cornices. They can fall. They can break off and fall on us. And also, I like to just dig in the snow a little bit, not to stop and dig, but to even take your ski pole upside down and just see if you can feel layers of hard and soft. And you might also just scratch a trench in the snow and feel the layers. Take your glove off and feel the layers. You can feel weak and hard layers there. And if you see anything questionable, like you see signs of avalanche, etc., let the group know and discuss, and so you guys can discuss it. Okay, and so again, check in with a group every time you take a break. Okay, is everyone feeling good? Anybody not up to this? And you might have to revise your plan if someone's not comfortable with the conditions. So it's good to stay close enough together. Yeah, I went on a winter day climbing trip where the conditions were not great. Visibility was low, the wind was howling, and so I told my partners, let's stick together because we get 20 feet apart and you can't hear each other. And what did they do? One guy lagged back without saying anything. One guy went ahead because he had summit fever, and we got separated, and it wasn't a good trip. I had to turn around and just wait for everybody. So stick together. Okay, so as you're going along, you're paying attention to the slope angle, and is the slope you're on the same aspect and elevation as the forecasted avalanche problem? You don't want to be in that situation, so pay attention. And is the steepest part of the slope that you're on, or you're about to go on, or the slope that's above you, within the sweet spot for an avalanche to occur? And I didn't mention this, but in that slope angle chart, there's actually a sweet spot that's right around 39 degrees, where a lot of slab avalanches happen. So watch out for those localized steeper sections, and always pay attention. And are you in an avalanche path, or are you about to go on an avalanche path? And also, are there any trigger points that where you could trigger an avalanche? An example is a convex rollover where the slope does this. Right at that area is susceptible to avalanching. And also watch for shallow spots. in general, where there's a rock outcropping, is going to be a possible trigger point, because the rock will pick up heat from the sun, and it'll affect the snow around it. And also the snow is generally shallower in that spot. So we talked about if the weak layer is a meter below you, it's probably okay. But at those shallow spots, that weak spot might be 2 feet below you or less, and you could trigger an avalanche from there. And that if it's a slab, that crack that happens where you trigger it will just shoot out and propagate, and the whole slope could come down. So, okay, rock outcropping, shallow. Okay, and also think about the commitment of the slope you're on. Is there a bailout spot? Is there a place where you can take an easier route if you want to, or are you committed? Before you get there, you want to figure this out, or before you get on top. And again, is there a dangerous slope above? Is there a terrain trap below? A terrain trap being a gully or a cliff where an avalanche could take you over. Okay, so we talked about localized steep spots. There's a picture here showing where the average might be 30 degrees where you're looking at it from above, but there might be a rollover where in that section it's more like 38 degrees, which is right at the sweet spot for an avalanche. And there's a picture of a trigger point, and a trigger point where there's a shallow spot that we talked about, a rock, and also a convex rollover. Okay, use terrain to reduce your risk. The top two photos here show two different parties crossing a potentially dangerous slope. It's dangerous because you can see that rock outcropping above them. You could trigger a slab avalanche from where these people are, and because there's a shallow spot above them, and it looks like a 30-degree slope or more. So a better way would be to send one person at a time, so that if an avalanche happens to bury that person, then at least you've got the rest of your crew to do a rescue, and you're not committing the whole group into that dangerous spot. And the photo below shows the bad spots to be in, where the arrows are, because they are in avalanche prone areas. And if there is an avalanche above, then the debris is going to go down those gullies and take people out. So you want to stay where the tracks are, and they're on the higher spots, so that if there's an avalanche above, you're most likely going to be safer in those higher spots. So yeah, stay on high ground and away from potential debris flow. Okay. Now we're done with the ski tour. Everybody survived, and we're going to debrief. And I think this is, yeah, okay. So we're going to debrief the day, and this is an important part of the learning process. So this is where we compare what we predicted to what we observed. And so this is part of the feedback loop that where we gain knowledge about the snowpack and the dangers of the snowpack, and then how our knowledge compares with what we actually saw out in the field. So we're going to summarize the conditions based on observations from the field, and review the day's decisions, receiving feedback from each participant. So this is the human factors part of the whole safety procedure. Did we make good decisions and get everybody's opinion, and so that we can learn for next time. And Yeah, so our goal is to improve the day's plan in order to utilize lessons learned from the for the next outing. And without that feedback, we just don't learn as much. And so we also want to compare our observations with the team members, and then we elect one of the members to submit observations to the local Avalanche website, and that will help the next team who can see your observations and help them with their planning, and then they in turn will do the same. Okay, that's all I have. Time for any questions, comments?
All right, I don't see any hands going up in the room. We have one comment online, and I'll still watch. Everybody should definitely keep typing if you're typing in those questions online. But early on, Christian chimed in and said there are also various annual regional snow and avalanche workshops to help with Kaizen and continuous learning. The San Juan / Sangre de Cristo is represented at, I'm not sure, sorry, it's an acronym 4SAW, the number 4 and then SAW, thanks to Silverton Avalanche School in Colorado. For SAW, usually happens in October. They usually present after action reports / season recap from the previous season, long-term weather forecast for the upcoming season, and new research that has been conducted. So thanks, Christian, for an extra resources there. Anybody questions in the room for Rick?
Yes.
Comment that we have transceivers
Ah,
that you can check out.
that's right. We have, what was that, 8 transceivers that can be checked out, and I guess I will be the new equipment manager. So for now, talk to Jeff Click, and then starting in January, you can contact me. We have transceivers, shovels, and probes.
And at the Backcountry Day, Michael is going to set up a fun game with the transceivers and have them there or bring their own.
Oh, good. Yeah, Anne mentioned that in the Backcountry Day that Michael Alter and Anne is organizing, we're going to play some games where we search for the missing transceiver or the hidden transceiver.
So we have one question about what other information and activities are happen at the Avalanche classes in town here.
I guess that's a question for you, Michael.
Yeah, here, hold on. I can give Michael the microphone.
The backcountry meetup is just a little group gathering of like-minded individuals to come and meet other like-minded individuals. And as Ann said, we'll put out some transceivers and stuff, and you can play with your transceivers. You can see what the club transceivers do. You can probably experiment with a variety of different transceivers that various members might have to see what style or mode you like best. That'll take care of that. The Avi refresher is basically for people who've had some avalanche training in the past and are interested in refreshing their skills. We'll go out to a field site up near the Brazos Cliffs overlook. We will do some strategic shoveling exercises, some probing, some beacon rescues, and various things, and we'll just get ready for this season in the backcountry.
Okay.
Is there any place in the Jemez Mountains we should be concerned? Should we
Of course. I don't know specific spots, but maybe Michael can answer that question.
So the question was whether or not there are specific areas in the Jemez to be concerned about.
So Pajarito does a really good job of getting skied down pretty well, but the Fab Four are possible sites. Most of those runs are sufficient angle that they could run. I think the only one that we've ever seen is down by the bottom of the mother lift. There's a little section there that has slid. The slopes up along the upper portion of Los Griegos, if the deadfall gets buried enough, some of those spots can slide. The place that Los Alamos skiers go, which is more of a New Mexico site, but it's in Colorado, is up by Cumbres Pass, and there's plenty of avalanche terrain in that area. So if you go up there, it's worth checking out the Colorado Avalanche Information Center reports for the South San Juan. And then, of course, Williams Lake and Kachina and all those areas. I think the last fatality in New Mexico was on the recently opened Kachina Lift run a few years back.
Okay, one more question here.
So if you're looking at an area to go backcountry skiing, is there a way to find out, like, the history if there were past avalanches?
The question is if you're wanting to go to any specific ski area or a possible spot to go backcountry skiing, is there any way to look for for avalanche history? And in some common areas there might be, but you're gonna have to do some searching. Michael has a comment.
There's a couple good resources to look for. There's an app on the internet you can look up called Snow Pilot, and most avalanche forecasting is done by crowdsourcing, and Snow Pilot is a great resource for people who go out and for kicks dig pits. Some people like to do that. I don't know why. The Avalanche Information Center. If you're going to a place that, like you were going up, say, to do the Valhalla Traverse in BC and you hadn't actually knew anything that's going on up there, you look at the local avalanche resources. There's AIARE has the course framework that Rick was talking about, has a great number of resources on their webpage to look up for local avalanche centers. That's a great place to start. But if they don't forecast, if you're going to an area without an active forecast, you have to go back and start doing a little detective work and follow what the weather's doing, look for patterns that might create layers under more hard slabs and stuff like that. So you have to do a little research, but there are a lot of resources out there, and starting either at the Colorado Avalanche Information Center or at the AIARE websites is a good place to get started.
Okay, I'll do one last check of online here. Don't see anything else on there. If anybody's getting a last minute question in, feel free to keep typing. I will watch that chat. Or in the room here, just start waving. And Rick, if you don't have anything to add.
One more thing I'd like to add is that the AIARE1 and AIARE2 workbook is actually on the internet. I found it, just did a search on AIARE. I think it was the AIARE risk management framework. And I was able to find both the AIARE1 and AIARE2 books. It's not a substitute for taking the class, but it has a lot of information in it. And the companion field book, which is meant to be carried with you and filled out during your planning and your actual trip to reward your conditions, is actually available. It's on Amazon. So AIARE Field Book is what I searched on and found it. Okay, I guess that's it.
Great. Okay.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
Thank you so much again, Rick. And everyone, just please remember to look out for that survey coming to your email, and check out the Peak website for some great programming coming up this winter. Our snowshoe rental program is up and running. If you need snowshoes for a day or a week, you can come here to the Nature Center and get those. You can also buy tickets for the crazy popular Backcountry Film Festival coming up in late January. Those just went live. Get your tickets for that event at Sala. Thanks everyone again for joining us, and good night.